Jade, I'm from the Tate.
Hi, I'm Jess, I'm from Event Concept.
Tate's actually made up of 4 galleries. So we've got 2 in London, Tate Modern and Tate Britain, and then we have Tate Liverpool and Tate St Ives down in Cornwall. The London sites are looked after by the team here, and we've obviously got some incredible spaces at both Tate Britain and Tate Modern because the venues are completely different to each other. One's neoclassical in its architecture, and obviously over here at Tate Modern it used to be a turbine hall, so very industrial. In terms of the Tate event side,
apart from
we
others
also
in the
have our
industry,
own
it's the fact that we blend
catering.
creative
So
agency thinking with production company doing, and it's all under one roof at our offices in Bermondsey. So we can work with clients from beginning to end on their events, helping them with the upfront strategic approach, and then the big creative idea or the creative platform, right through to then all of those experts across audio, lighting, staging and video that can turn that vision into a reality. And like I say, everything is literally under one roof at our offices in Bermondsey.
That's quite easy. When I spoke to Justin, he was saying how Emma and I are doing their first time here in London for the first time in 20 years. London's so iconic, but equally Tate is very much iconic in London's landscape, and I really wanted to be part of it. I wanted to be able to showcase what Tate can offer to a client coming into London, and also with the Turbine Hall, you know, what a better way to have a party.
Exactly, no brainer.
No.
So my favourite event space here is the tanks. Obviously, when the gallery used to be a power station, it used to house all of the oil, as I'm sure you know. Yep. But it's just such a fantastic industrial space, and there's so much that you can do with it. It's so versatile. We've done loads in terms of transforming the space with video projection and lighting, and when you walk into that space when an event is on, it's just so immersive. It's, yeah, just my absolute favourite.
I couldn't agree more. So that's a really tricky one because we've done so much over the years together. Looking back in the last season, because I always think, you know, the tanks are a really busy season for us every November, but looking back to last season, XTX would have to be one of the highlights. So with that client, they obviously had a brief where we had a lot of neurodiverse guests coming through the doors. So we had to make sure that they felt safe and they was going to enjoy the event as best they could. And I was just really overwhelmed with kind of what you guys came up with. I know that we did lots of interactions and stuff like that, but to walk in and you had like a rain curtain to sort of like help with the senses. You created like the crystal maze out of nowhere, which was like, how did you do that? I don't even know. There was just loads of little elements that you guys brought to the table, which I didn't even think were possible, and it was fantastic to see how you brought that together.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, it was one of our absolute favourites as well. So I can make an educated guess.
Yeah.
And I would say the number would be probably around 60 or so.
Yep. I'll make you right on that one. We obviously hold lots of events together, but we obviously have a lot of events where they're kind of like multi-days. Yeah. So 60 is a big number, but actually when you're on site with us a lot more than 60 days. I probably would put it more to like 120.
Wow, yeah, sounds good.
Yep. I think Tate's really unique for one of the MICE events spaces because we have a fantastic array of daytime offering at Tate Modern here. So, you know, if clients want to come through for conferencing and things like that, then we can absolutely offer it. But outside of that, for your incentives, trips, and sort of really having a wow factor, Tate is really up there with what can be offered in London. The fact that we can have guests having private access to world-class art is second to none. Guests really love to come through and see and feel Tate with nobody else around. So having like an early morning tour or coming in the evening for a private evening tour before you have an intimate dinner, I think really sets us apart.
Yeah, absolutely, I'd agree.
Gosh, that's such a difficult question. I would have to say, looking back to some of the exhibitions we've had on recently, we've been really lucky to have art experts take us around. And one artist that really blew me away was a lady called Hilma Afklin. Hilma Afklin is actually an abstract artist, and she predates kind of like when abstract art sort of came visible with the likes of Kandinsky and Mondrian. But her art is really interesting because most people at the time knew her as a botanical artist, so she drew lots of images of flowers and insects and stuff like that. But to the side, nobody knew she was actually being sort of, she felt she was being commissioned by a higher power to draw sort of mystic art, and it was actually sealed and wasn't released until she died, until after her death 50 years later. So we've got these amazing tapestries of like this really abstract art that nobody really understands the coding behind. So it'd be fantastic to obviously have her at the dinner table and ask her, you know, who does she feel was commissioning her to do these works of art, and what was the actual meaning behind them. But also the art is absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
So I think I'd have Hilma.
She sounds incredible.
Yes, she was.
So for me, when we're looking to incorporate any technologies or some of the latest trends, it's really important that they serve a purpose and that they're actually answering the objectives of whatever brief the client has given us. I think too often you'll find events where tech is just incorporated for the sake of it or because it's the latest cool thing to do. But actually for us, it's always about going back to the strategy and how best to execute that strategy to hit our clients' objectives and KPIs and so on. So we always go back to the root and say, why are we doing this? Okay. And then we find the how and how we're going to actually execute it. And if that means incorporating tech, then yes, absolutely, we'll do that.
Amazing. Absolutely. So one of the beautiful things about Modern Tate Britain is they have very different offerings when it comes to the art. So if you've got a client who's quite interested in traditional art, you've obviously got amazing space down at Tate Britain. But over here at Tate Modern, we've got incredible international art that comes through the doors. So if a client wants to incorporate that to their event, then absolutely we can provide something for them. Having said all that though, not everyone's always interested in the art side of what Tate has to offer. Behind us now, we've got these amazing views of iconic London. So a lot of people do come here as well to sort of have that wow factor and experience of being in London and seeing them amazing views. And that is one of the reasons why we really wanted to partner and do the M&I Healthcare reception and dinner, because we want to showcase a global audience exactly what we have, and they can obviously have a snippet of kind of what we can offer and come back and enjoy it in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. So we recently worked with a private healthcare brand, and it was different to the other events that we've done because it was the first time that this client was ever putting an event on. And rather than putting themselves front and centre, it was about uniting the healthcare industry and everyone coming together to discuss the current challenges that the industry is facing. So it was quite different in that respect, and we worked with the client again end to end, advising them on the strategy up front and working very closely with them on the agenda too, so advising on external speakers that they could bring in, and then creating the whole creative identity and platform for the event, and then obviously making sure that it was executed on point.
Amazing. Gosh, we have a lot of obviously famous people that come through the doors. Me personally, we had an event and it was a fashion show. We had Naomi Campbell on site, which was very exciting, and she is absolutely breathtaking, as you can imagine. But we've obviously been blessed with having the royals come down, and things like that. So I think the most famous lady would have been Queen Elizabeth, but that was well before my time.
So I'm a big fan of magic realism, and one of my favourite books is called The Night Circus by Erin Morgenstern. And I would just love to create an event with any of the characters from that book, because for me, creating events is all about adding a little bit of magic for our clients and obviously for the guests that are attending. And if I could in some way kind of fuse these magical elements with the everyday kind of world around us and create an event with those characters, I think it would be absolutely amazing.
I think that was a great answer. I read that book and it was wonderful.
It's a great book,
It's
isn't
very
it?
good, yeah. We're so excited to partner with M&I for M&I Healthcare London, and we can't wait to welcome you in the Turbine Hall for your final evening.